Good evening, children of the night. I am Count Stashula. This is my human attendant. Average Seward Squad.
You couldn't even make up a good name for me. I'm a fucking afterthought in this story.
And welcome to another episode of Bram Stoker's Remember the Hyphen. And tonight's bone-chilling episode, we are going to look at the first vampire movie, Nosferatu. Now we're going to... Nosferatu! Sorry. I can only do that for so long that my nose starts to itch. Anyway, guys, welcome to another episode of Remember the Hyphen. Like I said, we're going to be doing Nosferatu.
I couldn't hold that face anymore.
You know, you're lucky. I could have done the Sesame Street thing and been like, one hyphen remembered. But no, he's still over there. We're worried the fuel truck's gonna come in.
Yeah, it's not a fuel truck.
It's not a fuel truck. But let's say
we got a really spooky one for you this
Yeah.
Halloween.
So we
Children of the Grave.
kind of been wanting to do some older horror movie stuff,
That's
and
why I've been doing older movies in general, because I know that's like an untapped thing, because we talk about older films a lot.
but and I've always kind of wanted to watch this movie because, like, you know, everybody talks about Nosferatu because it's, you know, the first vampire film. Although you can kind of argue
It's
some
arguable.
other, like Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, for example, kind of is a vampire movie in places. But anyway,
The Edison Frankenstein movie.
yes, and Frankenstein movie.
And I actually, as we'll get into, I actually argue the backstory of this film and how it almost was lost. Mm-hmm. I actually argue it's more interesting than the fucking movie itself.
I mean, that's fair.
Because I like you, I'd heard of this movie a lot. You know, I've heard a lot of stuff over the years. I've seen a lot of videos about, again, like how it was almost lost.
Yeah.
You know, the interesting stuff that went on behind the scenes with it. So, like, I kind of had, like, this idea built up in my head of the movie. Mm-hmm. You know, and when I went in and watched it, I actually was kind of, like, I was actually kind of bored, like, throughout a lot of it. Like,
yeah. Well, I mean...
I've actually read the book, Dracula, so...
Yeah. Going into this... this is, of course, in the public domain, so you can actually watch this for free on YouTube. That's how we watched it.
There's like 20 copies of it on YouTube, all in varying degrees of quality. I watched one that was Blu-ray restoration, which was really, really high quality. Probably the best you're going to get with this thing.
Yeah. I'm not sure if mine was it was just an HD one, and it was fine enough. Yeah,
If I showed you the thumbnail, you might recognize it.
But, for one, it's going to be really hilarious, because you could probably watch, like, 7 different ones, and each one will have completely different music, because, like, pretty much, whenever you get a
Can I get one where there's like some Iron Maiden and Black Sabbath over it?
Yeah.
It'd be fucking funny as hell.
I'm sure some people fucking sunk it up to Dark Side of the Moon. But like, well, because these are public domain, and most silent films actually don't have an actual audio track with them. Because back in the day when you went to go see a film, and by back in the day I mean like the late 20s, early 30s.
Back when nobody had any money because it was the Great Depression.
Well, silent films, they didn't film audio. They simply, film.
A lot of times I want to argue they wouldn't even have music. They would have somebody there.
That's actually what I was going to say. They had someone with a piano, and they had like a film sheet that had different tracks they were supposed to play, and they would just play it as they watched the film. And some movies I want to say they actually, like, especially if, like, say, like, they're still owned by the movie production, have, like...
I want to say Metropolis had an orchestra play.
Well, then, like, it had, like, actual dedicated music. 'Cause some of these silent films, they didn't even have, like, dedicated music.
Just play what the fuck
ever they want. I'm pretty sure this Nosferatu has, like, a dedicated, but I would have to watch, like, multiple cuts in this movie.
To compare them.
And
That's a project for another day. Colton and Adam review
different cuts of Nosferatu.
It's already going to be crazy whenever we finally get around to reviewing Phantom of the Opera, because that movie's chopped to fucking pieces. I don't even know what fucking copy of it I have on tape.
But yeah, so, going into this, I was, and to be fair, I did enjoy it, but man, it's really slow.
would you argue it's one of those movies that it has a really, really, really big amount of cultural significance and historical significance, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's a good film to watch?
I would argue so. Like a lot of the problem with this film is because it's like one of like the early years of filming
where nobody really knew what the fuck they were doing yet.
Well, a lot of it was just they just filmed like stock footage and just, you know, or like they would just show like someone riding on a horse because, you know, like that was so new to watch someone ride a horse on film. Like motion picture was like
it was brand new.
It was brand new. So like, you know, you would have so many shots of people just walking or doing like
maybe not even necessarily saying that it's a bad film, which I'm obviously not.
Yeah,
I've seen a lot worse.
Yeah.
From different time periods, but like I said, my main thing with this film, when it comes down to my final verdict, I guess I'll give rating later on, but my main complaint was just that, you know, this film has a huge amount of significance to it. You know, it's very, very important to not only film, but to just the horror genre
and vampires, like lore.
Yeah, it just all of that. It has such a huge amount of significance. But at the end of the day, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's a movie that I'm gonna go home and pop on every couple months and rewatch.
Yeah, I would absolutely argue.
I watched it once, you know, and I can safely say, like, you know, I watched it. I might watch it a couple other times in my lifetime, whether it's for if I go to somewhere, you know, and they're playing it at a festival, or maybe if I'm ever teaching a class or something and we watch something like with that.
Yeah, like.
But it's not necessarily a movie you're gonna want to just watch for your own enjoyment.
Yeah.
You know, probably most of us are gonna be like that. You're gonna watch it once and be like, I watched it. You know, I can agree that it was very, very significant. It had a lot of historical value and cultural value. It's not like watching Apocalypse Now or watching the what's another example? We're watching a comedy or watching a superhero movie.
Yeah.
You're not gonna watch a lot of those. Like you're gonna watch a lot of those, probably a lot of different viewings.
Yeah.
Nosferatu, I argue you're not gonna have that many viewings unless you're really, really super into it.
Or if you're doing like a marathon of vampire movies and you're just picking like stuff. But for me, I would definitely agree. Like there's some really great moments of cinematography in this, particularly in the scenes where they show like, you know, Nosferatu in like shadow, like that scene where he goes up the stairs. Or that scene where you actually see the shadow of his hands going up to someone's neck. Like, there's some really, really amazing shots in this. Hell, they actually did like shots of Count Orlok being like invisible or like fading, and I'm like, how the hell did you do that back in the 30s?
Yeah, I mean, look, there's some great shots in this that I can definitely see where other instances really copied it. You know, like that shot, like you said, with the shadows of like going up the stairs and stuff. That's been done in so many other films.
But
you know, and it's kind of cool to see, like, you know, this is really where it started.
Yeah.
Is that it came from this, you know, or that's where most people will see it and associate it with, is that it's that scene from Nosferatu. You know, like that kind of stuff's cool. You know, it's kind of like listening to a cover of, like, finding a song via a band covering it, and you go back all the way back and find the original.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of one of those cool things, you know, where you can see the evolution of it over time.
My other big complaint with this film is that SpongeBob ruined this fucking film for me.
No, listen, like, I was watching it, and that scene when he comes up in the fucking room, I was like, son of a bitch, I'm expecting him to turn the lights out.
Yeah, there was literally, I could find the clip where they took the scene of him fucking with the lights and graveyard shit.
I thought the same thing.
And I'm like, oh, god damn it.
Same fucking thing.
Oh, thanks, SpongeBob. All I could think about was, wait a minute.
Is that Nosferatu? Is he fucking with the lights again?
If the plague rats are killing people, then who drank that person's Nosferatu?
Yeah, it's just one of those things where I'm like, what the fuck? Like, I saw the scene. I've seen it 1,000 times. I'll probably see it 1,000 times more over the course of watching shit on YouTube or watching documentaries and shit. I am never going to be able to unsee that shit with him flipping that fucking light on and off.
It don't help that, I'm sorry, as much as I think that Count Orlok has a neat design.
He's not scary.
He looks like a fucking goofball.
And like, I watched it at night with the lights out. You know, like because I've got my big wall-mounted TV, You know, I had to turn the fucking sound down because that organ was so fucking loud on the clip I was watching.
Which is funny because my version didn't have organ.
Yeah, when I was telling him that, I was like, dude, I had to turn it down because the fucking organ was too goddamn loud.
Yeah.
Thinking that maybe you'd watched one that had that same organ track where you would get, like, it was fucking overwhelmingly loud.
No, I will admit, it was loud.
But, like, I even watched it at night. I mean, like, there were some couple times where it was kind of unnerving.
Yeah.
But, like, Orlok himself, he's not terrifying at all.
Then
I can see where back in the day, he probably was a scary
especially with the
motherfucker.
long nail. And did you notice his nails got longer every single time? That was actually, I was actually, holy shit. He becomes
like
more
some evolution of that.
Yeah, he actually becomes more and more monster like as the film progresses. So like, I mean, granted, it's very very small stuff, but it, you know, which also fun fact before we go a little any further, the actor that plays Count Orlok / Nosferatu, his name is Max Schreck. Which, if you've heard that name before, that was what they named Christopher Walken's character in Batman Returns, because it was a reference to Nosferatu. Just a little.
There's also a movie, I can't remember what it's called. That was like a mockumentary or something where they basically they had the filming of the movie as like a backdrop.
Yeah.
And the dude who's playing Count Orlok is an actual fucking vampire.
Yeah.
Like, I can't remember the name of that movie.
I think I do know what I'm talking about.
That film, which I think is funny. But getting into really quick just what I mentioned with the this film was almost lost. So this film is basically is probably arguably one of the very very first adaptations of Bram Stoker's novel Dracula.
Yeah.
In a way, they changed stuff in it.
Yeah.
They changed the names and the locations. They do this mainly because they didn't want to pay, or they weren't unable to get the rights from Bram Stoker's widow to do a straight-up Dracula adaptation. So what they did was they kind of, they changed some stuff here and there to be like, it's not totally the same.
Yeah.
And they got fucking sued over it.
Yeah.
To the point where I want to say the court case, that one of the final things with it was that they had to destroy all the copies of the film.
Yeah.
Except some of them had already got out, so they didn't get all of them. Which is very thankful, for film preservation purposes.
Yeah.
They were able to actually, later on down the road, they were able to find one, and I want to say since then there have been other copies that have come out that are in varying degrees of either just condition or, degrading, because this is a very old film. This is film with nitrate.
Yeah. Now, to be fair, and just as an aside, from what I read, apparently, and to be fair, I read it from Wikipedia, but to be fair, with films and stuff, I actually kind of trust Wikipedia as a source, because, like...
Wikipedia is a good source for finding sources, as I always say.
Apparently someone said that might not have been true, that, like, they simply changed the names because they felt, because this was a German film. They changed the names to be more German in order to kind of appeal more to the German audience, which
I don't believe. No, I don't believe that. That seems very convenient. That was just what happened, and it wasn't that they did it to subvert copyright law.
Apparently, certain versions of this actually says based on the novel by Bram Stoker,
which is the one I saw.
Yeah, I'm just simply giving.
And we're dealing with something. We're dealing with something years and years and years and years and years and years after the event. So who the fuck knows? If someone wants to come forward with a link to some primary documents on that, I would love to see those.
Absolutely.
Just to kind of, figure out, okay, what actually happened here. Yeah. I would love to see some documentation.
If you guys, feel free to leave it in the comments, because, like, I'm
sure there's a great doc somewhere on this film, this is a very famous film.
This is just us doing mild research.
Yeah, this is me. I didn't exactly come up here in front of the class with my 10-page research paper.
Well, then, to be fair, I'm like, given the fact that in the novels, Dr. Van Helsing is supposed to be probably German, because I think they say he speaks with a very thick European accent, which I assume means German.
Yeah.
And the fact that his name is Dr. Von Helsing. But then again, my favorite anime is Helsing, and they say he's fucking British.
Yeah.
But although it's hilarious when he's in here, because he's so, like, not important to the plot.
Oh, I know. He's like a fucking afterthought. There were times I forgot he was even in there.
Which is weird, because we have Seward in here as Hutter's boss, even though they're working for to sell Count Orlok some fucking real estate, which
It's a Ponzi scheme.
I'm like, what? The fuck?
There you go. Dracula is actually a Ponzi scheme. New iceberg. The Dracula iceberg, and the bottom one is Dracula's a fucking Ponzi scheme.
Like, I've never read the novel, but I kind of looked through some novel stuff because I was like trying because
I read that book the first time I read that. The power was out and it was storming, and I read it by a fucking like a lantern, like a fucking like a storm lamp, you know, with like a candlelight, and it had like red liquid in it that was fuel. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go full in. I'm gonna read motherfucking Dracula by candlelight. It actually was pretty fucking. It was actually kind of terrifying.
I mean, to be fair, that book is actually really
well.
good.
Yeah,
that book's really good.
That's a great book. It hasn't become a classic just because people like vampires. It's a really good book.
Also, Dr. Van Helsing's fucked up. Like, apparently, like, his wife, like, was driven insane by the death of their son, which is, I think, hinted that like, a vampire killed their son. And he's like, I'd leave her if I could, but, like, I'm dedicated to her, but, like, she's so mentally gone, I can't really love her. And I'm like,
damn.
Well, it's just because, like, they imply that, like, Van Helsing is, like, this doctor who knows, like, fucking all sorts of weird-ass shit. Because, like, in the book, he comes to help.
He's Doctor Strange, obviously.
Like, pretty much. But, he's called in not because, like, he's a vampire hunter, like, you know, fiction says he is. He was
because I, Dr. Van Helsing, beware! I had Taco Bell for lunch!
yeah, like that. Like, he's not Dr. Morpheus, but, because like because here he was called in by Doctor, because Seward's a doctor originally, but then Dracula hypnotizes him. Which funny thing in this movie, they don't show any of the powers he has in the novel, where he can like turn into mist or bats or like a wolf. Although there's a wolf in here, I'm pretty sure that was a Tasmanian tiger, or like that Tasmanian wolf, that like extinct wolf that like, which I'm like. We have footage of a fucking extinct animal in this?
Which is cool.
For
historical sake, it's cool as fuck. But
although, what the fuck that's doing in Transylvania? Which I do love. They changed all these names, but he still goes to Transylvania. Which I'm like,
the land of ghosts.
The land of phantoms and vampires.
Which I was like, okay.
And he's so happy about going there too.
The version I watched, the cue cards, it said, go to Transylvania, the land of ghosts. And I was like,
for mine, it was phantoms and vampires.
Mine was just ghosts. And I was like,
which I love.
The fuck?
Because in this, they spell vampire with a Y.
Well, that's common. That's an old type spelling of vampire.
I knew that, but
the very old ancient vampire book in Buffy has that spelling on it.
They also spell demons with an A.
I've seen it spelled like that too.
No, yeah, like I said, I'm just saying. Like,
I've seen.
Then I was wondering if yours had like some of the old timey ways of spelling.
Mine have the old timey spellings.
But like it was just so funny to me. He's like,
did yours have the cursive handwriting?
Yeah, mine did.
That shit. I had to pause that because I was like, okay, I hate reading cursive writing to begin with. I don't write in that shit.
It wasn't so much.
I had to sit there and pause it because I'm like, okay. I need to fucking read what the fuck this is, and it's hard to look at because it's blurry as fuck. Because even though I'm watching a Blu-ray cut, I can tell it's an old film, and no amount of fucking Blu-ray upres is gonna fix that degrading.
Actually, I think in my version they actually put in new text boxes because
I didn't have I was going on old ones. Whatever the fuck that copy had.
It wasn't so much cursive as they put it in like kind of like a Gothic font.
Yeah, it was in a cursive Gothic font. Like,
yeah, mine wasn't really cursive. But I'm
talking about the ones that were on the white background with the cursive writing. That shit was hard to read.
Yeah, the ones where like the doctor in their town's like explaining the events of the story.
Yeah, the ones you're talking about with the black background with the Gothic, those are easy to read. That cursive one, I had to pause that every time that came on screen because I couldn't fucking read what that was.
Thank God that mine actually had like subtitles for when they're reading through the ship ledger. Because I was like,
mine did too. Because
I was like, oh, thank God, because I can't read.
I can't read German.
Yeah, I can't read German, and I certainly couldn't read cursive German. I'm physically
incapable of learning another language because of my sensory and my processing shit. Thank God they put subtitles, and I'm like, cool. I don't know what the fuck this says, but I know it's important to the plot.
Well, I certainly couldn't have read it in fucking cursive German, even if I was able to read in German. I'd be like, what the fuck is this? But
it's just one of those things where I'm like, thanks for the subtitles. At least, unlike Captain America, I can understand what the fuck is being said.
Yeah. Like, the only time I've ever agreed with him not putting the subtitles is when the Swedish guys and the thing are trying to kill the dog thing, because there's actually, kind of important so that you don't.
Yeah, but
any other time,
where I'm like, I would like to know what you're fucking talking
about. Any other time, it's bullshit. Like straight up, it's bullshit. Any other time, but yeah, no, but yeah, I love that he not only does he do that, this motherfucker finds a book about how to kill vampires. Just. In his
that book, by the way,
in his hotel room or his in room, which I'm like,
what fucking hotel you go to that you get a book on how to kill vampires?
I mean, it's in
sounds like a dope hotel.
I mean, it's in Transylvania, so
I'd go to that hotel. That sounds dope.
Also, I'm sorry, I like the Hutter character, but my God, he acts like he's in a Charlie Chaplin film the entire time. Like his
he does. I'm glad I'm not the only one who thought that.
Yeah,
because that happened, and I was like, oh, I see somebody's emulating Charlie Chaplin here.
Because to be fair, like, everyone else in that acts
pretty decent.
Yeah, like, I mean, granted, their pants.
It's an early film, so everybody acts a little outlandish, But it's like, it's nothing really out. If you've seen parodies of 20s films, you know what we're talking about, the way they act and stuff in it. Like, it's. Or like the over exaggerated facial stuff like that. But like, but there once in a while you watch something where it's like, what the fuck?
Well, especially because everyone else, while they're pantomiming, it's not nearly as
exaggerated,
bombastic. Whereas Hutter, like, he is like, it's like he's like everyone else is at like an 8. He is at like an 11 for like and to be fair, like when he's scared, it works. But like when he's like, I'm off to Transylvania. La, da, 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 da.
I was like, motherfucker, you were too happy to be going to Transylvania.
Like the only other person that probably was as bombastic as him was Knock, aka Seward. But at least I get why he is, because he was fucking hypnotized into being Dracula's like morning boy.
Yeah, it's understandable why they would want to over exaggerate to show that he was being affected.
Yeah. Although him and my God, whoever told them to make his eyebrows look like that, I'm like, oh gee, I wonder who's working with the vampire. It could be anybody. Who? Yeah, he does look like a fucking owl.
He looks like a fucking owl. You owl-looking motherfucker.
Like there's just some weird line stuff. Like when he picks flowers for his wife, and she's like, "Why would you kill these flowers?" I'm like,
when I read that, I was like, I sat there, I'm like, is that a translation error?
Yeah, I was like, what the fuck?
I was like, who the fuck? Like, I kind of had to think, I'm like, okay, maybe it's like a playful thing, like, oh, how could you? Like,
yeah, but like she's just,
but like just getting hit with that, it's like, okay.
Then like even before
what I expected.
Like even before he meets Dracula, she starts like
being weird,
like having like sleepwalking and shit, and I'm like, he hasn't even run into the vampire yet, girl. What the fuck are you doing?
Yeah, so it's like, the fuck.
There's some really weird.
Yeah.
Then my favorite is when he meets Count Orlok, and he's like, it's almost midnight. My servants have all gone to sleep, and I'm like, and he's just standing there as goofy as fuck he can be, and I'm like,
gee, I wonder who the vampire is.
I know. I'm like, you aren't seeing some red flags here, Hutter?
Shit, I'm seeing enough red flags. I thought it was a NASCAR race.
But that scene where he cuts his finger with the bread cutting knife, and the dude's like, "You've let out the precious blood," and I'm like, dude,
red flags aplenty.
And then like that dude scares him so bad he passes out in the chair by the fireplace in his castle, and I'm like,
again, red flags very much.
But no, the only time he finally figures out he's a vampire is when he goes into the fucking tombs and sees him in his coffin. And I'm like, and instead of fucking leaving like a sane person would,
no, he goes full on white person in a fucking horror movie.
He locks himself in his bedroom, and then later, once he sees Orlok has driven off with his caskets of soil and puts himself in the casket, which was hilariously done via like stop motion, where they show like the door of the tomb.
Yeah, I saw. I was like, what the like stop motion? Oh god.
It
didn't hold up very well.
Well, not like that, he has like a dude that like brought Hutter to the castle. I'm like, why didn't you just get him to put you in the fucking coffin? But
I did not think that very hard.
Yeah, very, very, very
I mean,
fair.
I'm just making this up as I go.
Well, he has some weird powers in this, like, but I love it too. Like after he sees that the guy's going after his wife because the dude already like saw his wife and was like, "Oh,
I want that."
Yeah, he's just like another red flag. He's like, "Your wife has a very lovely neck,"
Which I'm
like,
I don't care who you are. That is not a compliment in any language. It's like,
well, not only that.
what do you mean?
I've watched so much vampire shit where the dude like sees a beautiful woman. He's like, "You've got such a lovely neck."
If you tried that now, like if we said that to somebody at work, it'd be like, what are you, a fucking vampire?
Although now I'm thinking about it, just as a quick aside, one of my favorite Kamen Riders is Kamen Rider Kiva, and his transformation trinket is a sentient talking bat that bites him. His favorite painting is a painting of this woman with a very long neck, and I just realized that was probably a reference to this, and now I feel really fucking stupid. But I love it. He's like, "I've got to get to my wife. I can't just go through the door I went in. I'm going to make a bed sheet rope and climb out the fucking castle."
You know what it reminded me of? And even more so now that you just brought it up. The AVGN episode of Nightmare on Elm Street. Front door, closet. Front door, closet.
Closet.
That's what it reminds me of.
Yeah.
Like, why the fuck?
And I don't understand why he went down that way, because like,
Oh, I don't
like
either.
did Orlok
go
lock
out
you
the
in?
front door, motherfucker.
Well, and then he falls.
It'd be
and-
so much easier if he just went out the front door. But no, because it's a movie, we gotta complicate it. Even
Yeah.
though I'm like, any normal person would have just left.
Maybe your wife wouldn't have fucking died at the end of this if you hadn't just climbed out, gone through the door instead of falling and breaking your fucking head, which puts him in the hospital for like a week.
Yeah.
And then, oh my god,
We're dissecting the logic of a 1920s horror film. What
I
does
mean,
that say?
fair, but like that's like the only logic thing that like makes no fucking sense to me, other than like it's just a weird horror film.
I don't even think it's 1920s. I think it's earlier, isn't it?
No, it's 1928. Yeah,
Okay, so I was right. 1928.
it was 1928. Although I got some, I want to say when I was looking up the IMDb, it also said 1922, but
When did Nosferatu come out?
also apparently there was a remake of this in '79, which I didn't know about. But yeah, like there's just some weird shit. Like also like even if you don't know about the SpongeBob joke, like the way he comes into doors and shit, where his arms are like this, he just kind of like he goes like.
1929, actually.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's probably the American release date, so 1928 then, probably.
Yeah. Like I love how he just walks in with his arms straight like this, and he just like I'm just like, what the fuck are you doing?
Look intimidating. that's your idea of being intimidating.
Intimidating?
That's it. That's the best you got.
Yeah. Or my other personal favorite, where he holds his arms like this. It's like he climbs up stairs and shit. Or my other favorite, he sneaks into the town they live in. No one sees this motherfucker carrying a fucking casket.
There's not some old lady that's up watching what's going on, and then getting ready to gossip the next morning over the fence, like.
Yeah. And he's just like, dang, it feels good to be a gangster as he's walking to this abandoned fucking building.
He's walking in fucking James Brown, I Feel Good.
Yeah.
Man.
He looks fucking ridiculous. But I mean, granted, there are some moments where he does look really intimidating. Like again, the going up the stairs, or that scene where he bites Hutter the first time. And you see the shadows of his hands coming up to his neck. Which I also love. Hutter's like, I got bit by 2 mosquitoes and they bit me in the exact same spots. I'm like, do you not know what fang marks look like? Like, have you ever seen a dog bite, motherfucker?
Yeah, or like a snake bite.
Yeah, like, oh my god. And then, also, what was up with when Elizabeth's waiting on for him at the shore, and there's just, like, tombstones just sticking out of the sand dunes?
Oh, that was common back then.
That was
if somebody washed up on shore.
Oh, okay, so
after the shipwreck. That's common.
I thought someone straight up just buried people in the
dunes. That was common back then.
Okay,
they were probably unmarked graves to begin with.
Okay, I didn't know that because I thought straight up people were like, well, we don't want to actually bury them in the plots because we
No. That's common back then. There used to be cemeteries on beaches and stuff. That's common.
Okay, so those were like
for that point.
Okay, so they're like if like how we have like crosses at like
Yeah.
car wreck. Okay,
That's what that's like.
Okay, because I was straight up
Yeah,
thinking
that's common. That's something to be worried about.
I was straight up thinking they just got lazy and said, "Fuck it, we're just gonna put someone in a fucking sand dune." You know, some kid comes across the the corpse as like the sand is eroded away. I was like, okay, that makes more sense to me. But like they were like, because they were like all like, some of them were like this way.
Yeah,
so I'm like,
common.
Like, okay.
Especially for that time period.
Well, I also love that there's just a single fucking bench on this beach. Where she just sits there waiting for Hutter to return.
I'm at the beach.
I also want to know, because like I'm pretty sure Hutter left for Transylvania on horse, but Dracula needed his tomb, his caskets to be brought in by ship.
There was some time jumps here that we weren't made aware of. I'm pretty sure.
Because I was pretty sure he rode a horse all the way there, but who knows? Although I also love that like people think it's the plague, despite the fact that everyone keeps fucking finding bite marks on these people.
Oh, it's the plague.
Yeah, I mean, none of the fact that like they let these caskets on that ship after one of them falls and breaks and has all these fucking rats come out of it. Which I know why he needs the soil, because vampires need the soil from their homeland. I don't understand the rats though.
Without having the vampire book here, which is about an encyclopedia about yay thick.
Yeah.
Of just vampire stuff. Might go home, dig it out of the tote, and I'll get back to you on that, because I'm sure there's something in there about it.
I mean, granted, I still don't understand why these ship guys
rats are associated with death.
I mean, fair, but like,
especially for that time period because of the plague.
Well, if I were the ship guy, I'd be like, these are full of fucking rats. Throw them the fuck over. We're not having rats on this ship.
But you were paid.
I don't fucking give a shit. We ain't getting the bubonic. We ain't getting the Black Death. Is what we're not doing. And what a shocker! Everybody dies on that ship. And then I love the description that Dracula's demonic power makes the boat go faster. And I'm like, all I could think about was he was somehow doing all of the duties of every single helmsman and ship guy just at the same time, like really fast.
Listen, him at the wheel. In the Navy. Yeah, just fucking YMCA. Someone needs to do a dub of this movie where we just have dumb shit playing over it.
Blow, what can you do to a drunken sailor? What would you do with a No, or that scene where he's invisible and like the poor guy that like they brought down to the, because he's like all delirious because he's pretty sure he saw Orlok get out of the tomb and fucking bite a motherfucker. Which I'm like, but then you just see him like all invisible sitting there like, yeah, I'm gonna eat your ass. Then the poor first mate who saw him come out of that coffin and just decided, you know what? I'm just gonna kill myself by going overboard.
I'm just good. He pulled a Riley, time to kill myself.
Which I'm like, I guess he was just like, fuck you, Captain. You're going down with the ship. But no, there's just so much weird shit in this. Like, but again, like I thought it was pretty good for what it was. But like, if I were to go back and watch another horror film from this time period, it would probably be
Dr. Caligari or The Golem or something else,
like Phantom of the Opera, or like I would watch something like M before,
Dracula.
Yeah, or straight up Dracula.
Any of the Universal.
Yeah, any of the Universal. I'd probably go, the Hammer Draculas if I really wanted.
I've been meaning to get the rest of those because I have the Horror of Dracula. I have the first one, which is the best one.
And then they done long enough they would have had the Horror of Dracula, because eventually Hammers just started doing straight up porn.
Yeah, basically.
much like the guy who did Plan 9 from Outer Space.
Yeah.
But
so if you have to give it a rating, on a scale of 1 to 10 like we normally do, what are you going with?
I'd probably give it a 5 or a 6, just because I don't feel like rating it super low given how old it is.
I was going to say a 5 out of 10. I'm going to give it a 5 on the virtue of historical and cultural significance.
Yeah.
Less so on entertainment value, but want to give it a 5 out of 10 just because, again, it's a very historically significant film.
Especially because it establishes so much lore about vampires. Particularly, I want to say this is the one that actually established that they they are vanquished by sunlight? Because I don't even think in the novel Dracula was vanquished by sunlight.
I can't seem to remember that being mentioned, but it's light.
Because in that book, I think Helsing just stakes the motherfucker. But I want to say that I read somewhere that this is where like they got they're vanquished by sunlight thing. Although here it's implied that he needs to drink the blood of a maiden, a pure maiden first, then the sun comes up. So I guess it implies that like virgin blood and sunlight are what vanquishes him. But then again, I don't know how he got on the boat since vampires are not supposed to be able to cross running water, unless I guess that doesn't count if he's in the coffin.
Yeah, that's why I needed the soil partially, is because
I figured it was something like that. There were ways to explain it. The other thing was I really wish that someone threw birdseed at him so he'd have to count it. Since vampires straight up like you throw some pennies on the ground, there's something like I gotta count. Because there's some weird vampire shit for them that. Yeah. So, which fun fact, Sesame Street actually got it right that the Count Von Count needs to actually count things. But yeah, like I said, while it's an interesting piece, and I think there's some definitely really interesting cinematography for the time. There's a lot.
Entertainment-wise, it's not a very entertaining film. It's kind of dull.
Yeah, just like you see a lot of shots of people riding on horses, or the boat fucking sailing, or like shots of like people being told about the plague spreading through town, so they're not supposed to go outside. So like, yeah, it takes a while to get to even Dracula or Count Orlok. But yeah, like I said, I think this was interesting, and I'm glad we did it. But if you're
not gonna go back for a repeat viewing anytime soon.
No, if I want to see some goofy acting like that, I'm just gonna fucking watch a Charlie Chaplin film. I'll watch The Great Dictator any time of the day. But yeah, that's pretty much my thoughts. You have anything?
Like I said, very, very culturally significant film, a very historically significant film for just film in general, the horror genre, the vampire lore, and popular culture. It's just overall, if we're looking at it on the merits of it just being a film, it's just very dull, and it's I would say it's probably very, very much like a lot of the films from that time period. You know, film was in its infancy. You know, we were really discovering just what you could do with film. I mean, I think it's what makes movies that come afterwards, like Metropolis or M, or you know, any of the Universal stuff, or Gone with the Wind, even just all these films. You know, the more you go back to these pre-30 films, you know, you can really see just the evolution of just, you know, how far we've come with like a movie from that time period with a movie from this time period. You know, you can see the logical step in evolution. You know, and everything's you know, one foot in front of the other. You know, they were really trying to fumble around in the dark, try to figure out this new medium. And well, I think this obviously aged a lot better than some. Yeah. It's still at the end of the day, it's a movie that, you know, if you're going to go into this, you're going to be watching it for the significance culturally or historically. You're not going to be going into it because you want to watch a scary movie.
And you also want to see it because Dr. Van Helsing says that piranha plants are like vampires, and weird one-celled organisms with tentacles are like phantoms.
I was like, thank you for these weird facts. You're going to be back next week?
Which also, I love how useless Van Helsing is in this movie.
Oh, no, at least in fucking any of the other ones, he's actually doing shit.
At least he fucking stakes Dracula at the end. Here, he's just there. Like, he's not even interesting like Peter Cushing's, like, Van Helsing.
Yeah.
Which says something, because...
Man.
Yeah, but... Anyway, guys, I think that'll wrap this up. Sorry it's a little short, but, like...
There's not much to go with. It's just...
I don't think you really want us to, like, go, like, shot by shot in this. It'll just never, like... We won't have much to say. But, anyways, guys, I think that's going to wrap it up. This might be the last Halloween episode.
Might not.
So just getting out of the way, just to let you guys know. This November, we're not going to be doing a Batman month. Just because, like, again, like, the X-Men month was really long for us, and it kind of burnt us out on doing themed months. We're still doing Spidey Miss in December because that's
our bread and butter right there.
Yeah, like, We're pickup artists.
But I mean, just for this year, you know, we're gonna put a hold on Mobat in November. But
Yeah.
next year we'll come back even stronger and better than ever. But for now, you know, we really want to focus on, you know, doing some quality reviews for the moment, and then setting us up for a great Spidey-Miss this year.
Yeah. But we probably will still do like a Batman thing this year. I'm kind of
do a couple.
Yeah, I'm kind of kicking around the idea of us doing maybe finally reviewing Batman Year One, just because it wouldn't be too hard for us to do. But yeah, mostly we wanted to do that, and we just wanted to kind of have an easy month before we did Spidey-Miss, because we're going to be doing like 2 reviews a week for that probably, or close to. So yeah. Like I said, guys, this might not. We're still kicking around if we're going to do some more Halloween stuff. If not, we might just, next time you see us, we'll be doing Mobat November. We haven't figured that out yet, but
we'll be doing something.
So
until then, guys, I'm Average Joe Squad.
And I'm Nosferatu.
And as always,
we ask you,
remember the hyphen.
And please, let me have a little bite of your neck.
And take care.
Dracula don't bite. Dracula scrape and lick.